Mr. Speaker, I'm looking at the GDP growth projections presented in Budget 2016 and Budget 2017. The GDP growth, real growth projection in 2016 was 1.4%. In Budget 2017, it's 1.3%. In Budget 2016, it was 2.2%. In Budget 2017, it's 1.9%.
Going down.
In Budget 2016, it was 2.2%. In Budget 2017, it's 2.0%.
Going down.
And the trend continues. So, Mr. Speaker, from Budget 2016 to Budget 2017, we've seen a massive increase in the projected deficit that this government has presented, and yet the government is presenting a decreased projected forecast in real GDP growth. Can the Finance Minister stand to the House and explain, as to many of us who may not be an economist, I am, but could he explain exactly what the GDP growth calculation is? And then, so exactly how GDP is calculated, and then what part of that calculation is failing due to this budget deficit?
I don't think he has a clue.
Can he also explain to Canadians, if they're going to stand up and say that this deficit is supposed to create jobs and economic growth, why they're showing a decreased GDP growth figure?
Good question.
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to talk about our economic situation. What we've seen over the last year is that the ambitious plan that we've put in place is having a real impact. It's having an impact on the most vulnerable in our society by taking children out of poverty. It's having an impact on families who, because of the Canada Child Benefit, have more money to spend that's going into our economy. And so what we're seeing, Mr. Speaker, what we're seeing is very important. We've seen a decline in unemployment. That's critically important. It's gone from 7.1 to 6.6%. What we're seeing as well, Mr. Speaker, is that our economy is proving resilient because of the measures that we put in place. And what we know, Mr. Speaker, is that as we make those investments in the future, we are going to see an increased level of growth. Now, the economists who do their forecasts, they look at the global situation and they put out those numbers. We use those numbers as our base. What I can tell you is that we're ambitious. We want to help Canadians. We know that we will do so. We know that as they get better jobs, more jobs, we will have better economic outcomes. That's the future for Canada, for our children and our grandchildren.
Bravo.